Hello, it is Topical Tuesday, November 5th, 2019. Steve Sipress here. And so here I was flipping around the dials last night to come up with something, knowing it was Topical Tuesday today. And I flipped around to a few of the news channels, maybe it was this morning. It was this morning. And I happened to see a clip of this show, Dancing with the Stars. Now, I've never talked about it on one of my videos. I think I've done over 1,000 of them in a row by now, every day since middle of March 2017. And this is quite a popular show. I'm sure millions of people watch it because it's unlike 500 or 1,000 different cable channels. This one's on network TV, which still has people watching it, more people than any of the cable channels most of the time. Anyway, I shouldn't be surprised actually that people actually for some reason watch a show where amateurs that can't dance are dancing. Like, people love celebrities. That's another tip for another day, how you can leverage celebrities in your marketing. If you're not, you definitely want to be tuned to that one. It can be easily done and extremely powerful. That show does it, even though they're, most of the time on most of those shows, they're not real top-line celebrities. They're B or C or D listers. Speaking of which, the popularity of that show, though, it's very similar to why figure skating, for instance, is like the highest rated, at least in the U.S., the highest rated TV event on TV of the Winter Olympics, when, of course, it's not a sport. It's just like, unless you think that, it's Dancing with the Stars is a sport. I mean, Dancing with the Stars is dancing off the ice, where judges judge it, and figure skating is basically dancing on the ice, where people judge it. And, of course, it's not a sport. But people love it. It's a #1 rated thing in the Winter Olympics. Anyway, and of course, in the summer, one of the top things, if not the top rated thing in America anyway, is this gymnastics. Very similarly, like with that floor dancing and the music playing, and she smiled to the crowd. That's, isn't that great? That's worth points. Well, clearly that's not a sport if smiling to the crowd gets you points. Here's LeBron James coming in for a dunk. Oh, hang on, wait, he didn't smile to the crowd. Not 2 points. He gets only 1.8 points for that one. And up comes the, Aaron Judge. Oh, he smashes a 500-foot homer, but he did not smile before he did it. So, it only counts as a triple. Like, come on now. Anyway, so what's the point? Dancing with the Stars. So I see that somehow they have a clip of this guy, Sean Spicer, that used to be one of the Trump spokespeople. He was the Trump White House, press corps person. He got made so much fun of on Saturday Night Live, and it was so ridiculous, and finally they got him out of there. And I think Trump, for months, whoever's in there now, doesn't even do a daily press briefing. It's been months. Trump just says, I'll talk to the press myself, like I've been doing for 50 years, and screw having somebody do it for me, so that when he says all kinds of crazy, ridiculous things, at least he directly takes the heat for it and not somebody else. But anyway, Sean Spicer was one of these Trump flunkies that took the heat for all kinds of ridiculous things. And so I do remember, it's only beginning of November, so it couldn't have been that long ago, but it seems like months ago. But I know the fall season starts in September or October, so maybe it's only been 6 or 8 weeks or so that it was announced he was going on the show, and all hell broke loose. The incredible anti-Trumpers that populate like 90% of every network and pretty much all the main media channels went crazy. How can you have a lying, despicable Trump person on the show? Blah, 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 blah. Well, that is called controversy, right? So the producers knew what they were doing. It's an old trick. This show has been around for, 10, 15 years. Maybe they've used up all the D-list celebrities, or the thing's getting old, and they're trying to get a spark going. But for whatever reason, they use controversy. Now, controversy can be a good tool in business, but it's extremely tricky because it most of the time backfires. It can be short-term beneficial. So, for instance, Trump himself had a reality show for years. We used to watch it, not only because it was very interesting to watch actual entrepreneurs, most of them, business people, selling lemonade and doing ridiculous things. And so we learned some stuff about that. Then it got to be the Celebrity Trump Apprentice show, and that was just a lot more silly drama. There was a few really good entrepreneur celebrities on there. Remember Lisa Gibbons was on there and a few others. But for the most part, that became fluff. But of course, because of the celebrity, again, it got higher ratings, I'm sure, more viewers than the regular Apprentice show. And the same if it was Dancing with just Joe Blow off the street. I have a feeling it wouldn't get anywhere near as high ratings as a show called, even if they aren't really, Dancing with the Stars. Sean Spicer, is that guy a star of anything? Come on. Anyway, who knows if I'm sure he's employed somewhere. I mean, every DC swamp dweller, after they leave the government, they get paid big bucks to consult or lobby or do whatever they do somewhere. Anyway, in this case, to dance. What the heck? But he's terrible. So I remember seeing the clip when he first came on, and then we saw the clip this morning again. He's just really terrible. I mean, I've never watched the show, but, you know, I have seen dancing. I've danced before. I'm probably just as bad as him or worse or maybe even better or whatever, but it's just he's terrible. And I have a feeling that I think I've seen something years ago. This whole show is about how just like on the Celebrity Apprentice show where they would take an entrepreneur out of his business for 6 or 8 weeks, put him into an apartment with 15 strangers, creating high drama, and every 3 days having a new task and a this and a that for 3 straight weeks of filming. And similarly on this Dancing with the Stars, I've heard that the contestants, come on now, they're not really stars, but these contestants, these somewhat celebrities, they're more celebrities than me anyway, in general, are actually practicing long hours because supposedly they stink at dancing. But I know there's been football players on there, and so athletes and actors and singers, I guess, and now this Trump spokesperson is on there. I don't know what the criterion is. I guess it's just that you're known more than the guy off the street, but you can't dance at all. So they spend long hours, and they actually learn how to dance, and yet after a month or two of this, the guy's still terrible. He was just terrible. But here's the thing, he's still on the show. Because it's not based on how good you are, it's based on the voting from the viewers at home get to vote. And so the controversy has sparked a backlash of pro-Trumper, getting in an uproar about these anti-Trumpers, who clearly hate. Let me just talk about it, okay? So how this might work. In the short term, this controversy, so the producers, whoever gathered the cast for the show, took a Hail Mary. It's likely the show is not doing great in the ratings or, on its last legs, and they said, let's just take a shot and do something crazy and be controversial. And we'll bring in this guy that absolutely can't dance, and he'll be hated. Worldwide Wrestling does this fantastic. They have the villain. And in the movies, of course, there's almost always a villain in Superman or James Bond or all the action shows. They got to have a villain. By the way, as an aside, the villain in almost every Bond movie or superhero movie or Superman or whatever, always a billionaire, always a successful business person, of course, is the villain. I mean, Lex Luthor, billionaire businessman, of course, evil, horrible. Anyway, but a broke Clark Kent working a 9-to-5 job and not doing even really well at it, though he's a hero. Anyway. I digress. So they get this Sean Spicer, and immediately I remember the host of the show, tremendous deranged anti-Trumper, like a lot of these network people are, or anyone living in the cities, and because there's just, it's not the usual. We put up for 8 years with people that were unhappy with George Bush, and then 8 years of people that were unhappy with Obama, but we haven't seen this deranged. Trump is so good at causing everyone to be deranged. I mean, just violently deranged against him. Of course, on the other hand, he has people that are just unbelievably for him. Both of those extremes are, I understand it because I'm a student of human behavioral psychology, but man, it's crazy to see. But anyway, right away, I think the host of the show was like, oh no, you can't have this guy. He's a lying, pro-Trumper, racist, xenophobic, all that Hillary nonsense, he's evil. But they were like, shut up, you're the host. Like, we're the boss, and you're the host, and he's going on the show, but don't worry, he stinks. and he'll get this, he'd get these ratings up at least in the beginning of the season, and for as long as they last, but he won't last long because he's terrible. And they had to realize that he could last a while, even though he's terrible, because it's based on the audience voting. Trump himself famously did this with Omarosa. If you watch The Apprentice show, he had this Omarosa character on there who was, of course, miserably awful at every task, pretty much didn't even do anything except disrupt everybody and hate everybody and, play mind games on everybody, and she was the villain. And I remember my beautiful wife Michelle and I, or anyone I talked to, like, oh yeah, she's going to go, he's going to get rid of her. And then we realized, no, see, Trump is not getting rid of her. Trump understands that people are going to keep coming back next week because they really hate her. They want to see her voted off. They're going to come back next week because he's not going to fire her, even though every week whoever was in charge of the task lost because she was on the team and she sabotaged the whole thing. And then they brought her in because, of course, it was her fault. And Trump kept her and fired someone else. And then the same thing happened the next week. He kept her again. Same thing happened the next week. Okay, I was born on a Wednesday, but it wasn't tomorrow or a week ago. And so I quickly realized, maybe not quickly, but in a few weeks, I was like, you know what? Clearly Trump knows that she's sabotaging the whole thing. She's terrible, and that's why he's keeping her on, because controversy in the short term can sell. Now, Trump learned a lesson in long term, famously when he felt obligated because she, was a pro-Trumper helping out on the campaign or something, so he actually gave her a job in his administration. And she did the same thing as she did on the TV show. Sorry to just laugh, but of course, it was yet another comical Trump hire in the White House. She fit the bill as far as being not what do they call the establishment? She's certainly an outsider coming in there. No experience, no skill, no work ethic, no personality that anyone would like. And famously, screwed the whole place up until finally he got rid of her. And then, of course, she wrote a book, bashing Trump all over the place. Now, of course, Trump doesn't give a rip. In case you can't tell, he doesn't care about anything. For the past 4 years, we've watched 17 bazillion ridiculous, the earth is ending, things happen. Trump is definitely dropping out now. He's definitely have to resign now. They're definitely going to impeach him now. And yeah, obviously none of that is ever happening. But anyway, I digress. So Trump got those ratings up in the short term. He then had the payoff, though. He had a successful payoff coming up in the final episodes of the show. He has all the celebrities come on, and it brings back the most popular characters to come back. And he has the big $1 million, or he's apprentice. He's handing out unbelievably. I've spoken about this before. The prize was a job. Can you imagine? People actually, entrepreneurs, busting their ass to win, not a prize, not a car, not a trip, not cash, a job. The worst thing in the world. Working for a guy who's not the easiest guy in the world to work with. But of course, they believed that they would get some good connections out of it, and who knows, whatever. But I digress anyway. So what happened with Trump, and I do remember that years ago we used to watch for a couple of seasons. We watched the American Idol show, and now once Simon Cowell left the show, of course, it was unwatchable. He was the only reason to watch the show. But I remember one year there was this singer on there who made the top 15 or 20 or whatever, 12, whatever they narrow it down to, and he was terrible. And I started seeing something on social media about how there was a whole campaign to vote for this guy because he was the worst singer left on the show. And so they were kind of making fun of the show. So again, the controversy got the eyeballs in the short term. But in the long term, that's no way to run a talent show by having the least talented person stay on the show until, the finals or the final 3 or 4 or whatever, till finally, there was enough votes for one of the good ones to get rid of that crummy one. And the same thing on The Apprentice. Eventually, Trump did get rid of her before the finals, although I remember at least once he brought her back, I think, to be on one of the teams at the finals, which is how thankless is that? Who the heck would want her on the team to sabotage the whole thing? And the same thing here with the Sean Spicer. So maybe the producers are thinking, which is the main lesson today, is big mistake. I've seen so many business owners make this. They think, I'm only appealing to a narrow audience. Let me expand my audience. So the Dancing with the Network stars might have thought, hey, everyone here is so pro-liberal, socialist, communist, whatever off the deep end. Nobody who's conservative is watching this show. Let's bring on a conservative, and that'll bring all these new viewers. And likely it is, evidenced by the fact that this one conservative pro-Trumper is actually still on the show after however many weeks, with however few there are to go. Undoubtedly, I'm pretty sure the judges will have something to do with the final voting. And at that point, of course, they won't let him win, because he and everyone that votes for him is deplorable and a racist and xenophobic and homophobic and Islamophobic and a basket of deplorable and irredeemable. And the hosts and the judges and the contestants and even the dancers themselves probably all hate Sean Spicer and everyone that would watch because of him, everyone that would vote for him, and therefore it's not likely that any of these viewers are going to come back next season if there is another one and keep watching. So it's short term. Likely it got him some eyeballs, and it's certainly getting attention. Otherwise, because I'm talking about it, and I've certainly never talked to anyone about that show in the whole 10 or 15 years it's been on, or whatever. So people are talking about it that otherwise wouldn't talk about it. But I can tell you one thing: as soon as this controversy is over, and probably as soon as this video is over in 2 minutes, I'll never talk about the show again. And so neither will any of these deplorable basket of irredeemable, racist, xenophobic, anyone that isn't an outright communist these days somehow is racist or xenophobic. I've even gotten called out on social media. Of course, I ignore the whole thing. I can't. How could you respond to such nonsense? But anyway, so that's the key. And if you want help with how to use controversy, it can work. But it's real dangerous because it can really backfire. So it can work in the short term. And almost every use of controversy in the long term backfires unless you do it really well. There's a key to doing it, and even then, it's still a tricky, dangerous, risky thing to do. So, as always, I don't suggest you go it alone. Most business owners, I am guilty of being a lone ranger, and we don't get nearly enough input. That's why I join multiple mastermind groups. I run multiple mastermind groups and events. And I'm always getting together. I always have personal coaches, and I always get together with as many sharp people as I can and bounce things off them and get feedback and share what's working, what's not, and ideas and thoughts, because the Lone Ranger is not going to work, especially if you try using controversy as a Lone Ranger on your own without some guidance. So if you want that guidance, go find, I don't know, Simon Cowell or Donald Trump or Sean Spicer or someone to help you out, or the producers of the Dancing with the Stars show. Or you can go to helpfromsteve.com, get to my personal calendar, and get on the phone with me, and I'll help you out. However, I don't recommend it. But it is fun. And so I guess bottom line, that's what a show like Dancing with the Stars is supposed to be all about, right? Having some good, clean fun. Anyway, but of course when they bring in the controversy, they undercut that whole concept of the show. And I would venture to guess it's not going to be on the air much longer. I believe that when they use that controversy very clearly in this way, now if he was a great dancer, it'd be different, but there was clearly only one reason they use this guy for controversy, and that usually means they're desperate, which usually in network primetime TV slots, those are hard to come by, and they might not be around much longer. So you heard it here first on Topical Tuesday. November 5th, 2019. Steve Sipress here. Thanks for viewing. As usual, my phone, Facebook has not been showing me who's on, has not been showing me the comments, but if you leave one, or if you're watching on the replay, wherever you're watching this, I always respond when appropriate. And I will be back with a business building tip tomorrow based on the World Wide Web, because it's going to be World Wide Web Wednesday. Jason is here. Good seeing you. See, they did show me, and thanks for the like. So they are showing me something here towards the end. And I appreciate it. And I'll catch you tomorrow on World Wide Web Wednesday. I have a tip for you, specifically how to make money on the web, on the internet, with digital, internet, online, whatever you want to call it, marketing. That'll do it for today. Over and out. Bye-bye.